Every woman has a unique story, and as a journalist, I want to share with you some of the most inspiring ones. I'm Sarah Strackhouse, and this is the Strackhouse. That's right. Welcome to our house where you can feel like you're not alone. We're so excited to introduce you to this next guest, Sam Horwitz. She was a 9/11 first responder as well as a Secret Service agent at the time. She's also the author of The Silent Fall. Thank you so much for joining us, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. I'm excited you're here, and I want to really talk about that day on September 11th, 2001. You were actually in the Twin Towers. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Sure. Well, I was going to work with thousands of others. It was a normal Tuesday, and our parking level was in the garage below Tower 1. Mm-hmm. And so every day I'd drive down into our secured parking lot, and on this day I did the same. Got onto the elevator to go up to the plaza level, where I would walk across the plaza to our building, which is building 7, the last one to come down that day. And while I was in the elevator car started shaking, the lights started flickering, and I thought, well, this is a great way to start Tuesday. Now I'm getting stuck in an elevator.
Right.
And then it was as if a hand grabbed onto the top of our elevator car, and we just started moving really fast up.
Wow.
And then we stopped. And we stopped under such abrupt tension of the wires that we were literally bouncing when the doors flew open.
Oh my gosh.
And went to step out and was met with the hottest ball of dust that literally blew us back into the elevator car. And it sounds like something out of the movies, right? I mean, it really happens that way.
James Bond movie.
Yeah. And my training brain, being a Secret Service agent, took over. And very calmly it was said, okay, there's been an explosion, get out. And so I grabbed as many people as I could. I watched people do some very interesting things. A gentleman literally turned in circles. He didn't know what to do. Grabbed onto people, went up an escalator and out an exit door I had never used before. Wow. My gut said, go that way. And I did. And it ultimately saved me, yeah.
And others. I mean, I know there's the photo of you really like taking people out. I mean, what was that? Once you realized kind of what happened, you said your training kicked in. Tell us a little bit about what was going through your head once you were getting people out.
Well, that was a very calm moment. Like I said, training in the midst of chaos is what the Secret Service does. As we do protectee movements, as most people know listening and watching, we protect the president.
Right.
Well, we also protect foreign dignitaries and as well as our investigative squad. So we were used to kicking in doors. I mean, we did it all. And so when you're trained that way and it's kind of over and repetitive, when chaos happens, you respond calmly.
Right.
I don't know really any other way to explain it. And that is the lucky part of what occurred that day. Because when I hit that plaza level, when me and I had 2 women with me, we hit that exit door, I knew something massive had happened because it stopped me in my tracks. And I was watching debris fall everywhere, pieces of metal, pieces of concrete, and pieces of people, frankly.
Wow.
And so I paused, and my brain is kind of taking a lot of pictures and taking the scene all in, understanding that we're in an emergency, but not quite gathering the bigness, if you will, because it's not a normal thing to have that kind of stuff raining down from the sky.
Sure. And how could you have known that a plane had hit the tower? And talking about kind of taking that mental picture, I know that once you were kind of outside, you talk a little bit in your book about seeing people jump from the building. Tell me a little bit about kind of what was going through your head at that point.
Well, at first, I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. We had been informed by that time that it was, in fact, 2 planes. And the way I found out was a fellow agent who was driving down towards the scene. He saw us, myself and part of our squad, standing in the middle of West Side Highway, slammed on his brakes and was like, "Did you see the planes?" And we're all like, "What are you talking about? There's the Twin Towers. Planes would see these things, right?" And so the Pentagon gets hit. We hear it on the radio. So now we're thinking, okay, we're at war. Well, he turns his car around and he beats feet out of the city. We're left standing there, and that's when we start seeing the people jump. And in my brain, you know, again, not comprehending, because as human beings, if we need to leave a building, we go to an elevator and we push the down button.
Self-preservation.
Right. We don't launch ourselves. And that was really difficult, because after the 10th one, I just stopped counting. You could feel when they hit the ground. And I struggled and wrestled with that probably the longest, because trying to put myself in their shoes, like maybe they thought that they could see the walkway below and they were going to make it, or the choice of, my gosh, if I stay where I am, I'm going to burn to death, so I have to jump. I mean, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And so, again, my brain taking pictures of this and it actually leaving a lasting imprint, not only emotionally, but also that physically in my brain. And nobody spoke while we were watching this.
Wow.
Yeah.
So after you kind of went through this that day, you know, months later, I know you talked a little bit about experiencing PTSD and just kind of reliving everything and being in your apartment, supposed to be your safe haven. And at one point, I know in your book, you talk about actually having your gun to your head. Tell me a little bit about that thought process and what it was like when you actually reached out for help.
So I had asked for help twice while I was still in the field office. We had one debriefing. That was it. Was given business cards, and over the weeks and months that went by, it was a gradual decline to where I couldn't make sense of what was happening to me. We didn't know a ton about post-traumatic stress disorder. We got, maybe 30 minutes kind of a gloss over in the training. And so for me and a lot of my fellow agents, we're trained at such a high level. We have more training than most people on this earth.
Wow.
So what's going on that I can't figure this out?
Right.
And that was so frustrating to me. I'm an investigator. I put puzzles together. I make, I get the suspect. I make arrests. And I couldn't figure out what was happening to me.
Right.
And so the following spring, I made the very difficult decision to resign as an agent. I could no longer do my job effectively, and the demands of our job, if there was an agent that, if you're not at 100%, somebody might not go home that day, and that would be a lot more to live with. So after I resigned, I figured I'm finally moving out of the city.
Right.
Married at the time. My husband's living in Maryland, so we were living apart this whole time. And I figured, okay, I'm out of the city. I'm not in the place. I don't have that constant reminder. Well, obviously post-traumatic stress lives in your brain.
Right.
So it comes with you wherever you go.
Sure.
And and so that just started a continuous decline. And again, I'm trying to make sense of this, and it got to such a point where one day I woke up and I literally did not recognize my own reflection staring back at me in the mirror. Wow. Like, super scary. Wow. And I decided, well, that's it. I don't know this person anymore. I'm not me. I had completely pulled away from my family, self-isolated, was using alcohol to sleep. It was the only thing that would stop the nightmares. And so, I'm grabbing onto what works, not understanding post-traumatic stress at all.
Right.
And I decided it was New Year's, and I was not going to live another year like I had just left the previous one. And I crept down into my basement and decided this is it. No more. I don't like myself. In fact, I pretty much hated myself. It was that bad. And I was convinced wholeheartedly that nobody was going to miss me and nobody needed me. And so I got my gun. I had alcohol from everybody over partying, and just put my gun to my head and was like, this is it. Started pulling the trigger, and a voice said, Sam, it's not your time. And I open my eyes and I look around the room. I'm in my basement by myself. I know I'm by myself. And I knew whose voice that was, but I was in such a deep, dark place that I did not want to believe. Like there was no saving.
Right.
And so I just drank some more to where I was almost passed out and got the, for courage, whatever you want to call it, put my gun to my head again, started squeezing the trigger. And this time he sent my dog. And my 10-pound miniature Schnauzer Solomon jumped into my lap, startled me. And I'm now looking down into this cutest little fuzzy face. And he's not with us anymore. He had the biggest, roundest brown eyes, and they're staring right back at me as if to say, well, I need you. And I passed out, came to a few hours later. Solomon was right there by my side. And at that point, I had a choice. I was spoken to twice. Hey, I figured, it's kind of it's funny in that it didn't dawn on me till I spoke at a church where a woman pulled me aside and whispered in my ear, hey, you know what dog is spelled backwards. Like I didn't make the connection. Then I was like, wow. So I was spoken to twice, and I had to just make it like it didn't happen. So I cleaned up the scene, I threw away the bottles of alcohol, I put my gun away, and I was just like, all right, Sam, you were spoken to, what does the voice mean? Are we going to find this out? Are we going to check out? And it was a dangerous game that I played. It was a very painful. Turning point. Yeah, but it was very painful for being torn of, do I even want to be here to, hey, we got to find out what that voice meant.
Right.
And so I said nothing.
Wow. For how long?
Until I wrote the book, which came out on the 15th anniversary of 9/11.
Wow.
And I'm smiling and laughing now because it is so utterly ridiculous because of what I do now and encourage people to ask for help.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it at that time, and I hid it because I didn't want to appear weak. I think I took the image of, being a Secret Service. I had, my parents were really proud of me, my grandparents, something that I worked really, really hard for. And I couldn't do it anymore because of post-traumatic stress. And I didn't know how to create a separation. I talk about this with veterans now, with leaving the service. Same thing with law enforcement. I didn't wear a uniform. I had to hand in my badge and gun. So there's that separation and the identity.
Right.
And I didn't know how to do that well. And it took another year for me to get help. And luckily, my mom was watching everything. She is a dental hygienist, but also trained in hypnotherapy and went through some of her own stuff growing up. And she was watching very closely. I had no idea. And one day she just put a piece of paper with a name and a number in my hand and said, we need you back.
That's a good
mom. Yeah, she was paying attention.
Yeah.
My husband, he didn't know what to do.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think that's a lot of people who have loved ones or family members, friends who struggle with suicidal thoughts. What can you tell them? What advice can you give them? And are there ways that they can be reaching out to you?
Yeah, first I would say be patient. Your loved one is going through something that they may not understand. I think now we have a much better grasp with the folks coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as what's going on in the law enforcement community, both very tragic. We still have more than 22 a day taking their own lives. But the loved ones, it's not easy. I'm going to put that out there. And my heart goes out to them because it's not.
Right.
If you can hang in there and try and create a dialogue, and like my husband tried, sometimes you get anger back. He would never ask, and I encourage people not, how was treatment? That's a no question.
Right. Okay.
We don't want to ask that.
Okay.
But, hey, can I get you anything? What can I do? Do you want to go for a walk? little things that used to be part of the person who's suffering their program, ask if you can do that. But it's the patience that's the key. I see so many, and my marriage has been on the rocks several times. We've worked through it. But I see so many people really get angry at the person that's suffering, and that kind of pushes them even more to say, see, I'm no good.
Right.
And
at
we
that
got
point,
like
you're
the
already
angel and
going
the devil.
through, yeah.
That's what I call it, at least.
Right.
Good and bad, angel, devil, whatever your voices are. And we have this voice. Everybody has this voice. It's always on, always listening. Call it your intuition, call it your guide, call it your pain and the you know what.
Right.
You know,
telling you what to do.
Exactly. And it not only do you want to pay attention to that because it can lead you down the wrong path, but use that as fuel for your own communication. If I realize now, if I had just said, I need help, things wouldn't have dragged on, or may have been a very different picture, kind of getting a hold of things early.
Sure.
Stupid pride. Stupid Sam's the tough one.
Yeah.
Stupid Sam can take on anything. But that was my voice,
well,
you know?
I think it's a voice that a lot of people have. You know, they're telling
Absolutely.
themselves, I don't need help. I can work through this, especially someone who is in such a position like you were, someone coming back from the military or someone coming who is law enforcement. They're probably thinking, you know, I can handle this, you know?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. But if someone's watching this right now, you know, what would you tell them? If they're struggling through with suicidal thoughts, with PTSD, any of that, what would you say to them?
Well, first of all, I want to let you know that it is absolutely okay to not be okay. 100%. It's just not okay to stay there. It's not okay for you. It's not okay for your family. It's not okay for your kids. It's not okay for your partners, for your employer. And as hard as it may seem, take off the armor. Let someone in, whether it's your spouse, your partner, a coworker. If you don't want to talk to anybody, go outside. There are plenty of resources that you can grab onto. If you want to do a Google search, you can contact me. We're doing a lot of work in education with a badge of honor. We have on our website, which is abadgeofhonor.com, there's a place where you can reach out and get direct contact with myself, my partners who are also former law enforcement, one is current, and we're here to help. There are more and more people that are going through this. Post-traumatic stress is no longer this, you know, boogeyman in the closet, if you will, and we're really getting out there talking more and more about what's going on in our community and how we can help our first responders, how we can help our veterans. It's not easy, but the help is there.
Yeah. And I know you're out speaking. I mean, you're an author. Tell everyone how they can find out more about you and a little bit about what you do. Expand upon that a little bit more.
Sure. So we just launched, myself, and I have a partner who's also a 9/11 first responder, former NYPD detective and firefighter. And he has gone through some interesting things. His PTS path is interesting. It took 17 years to get a clinical diagnosis for his what he was going through. And then our other partner is a current police officer in local jurisdiction. And he talks about his journey and the specific changes he was able to make within the department, which now we're using to help other departments kind of have arms open instead of the, you know, just bury it or...
And a dialogue.
You know, completely different. We're changing that. And so again, a badgeofhonor.com if you want more specifics. We'll be putting on our workshops in Rockwall and Rowlett, one program in January, the next one in February. And then if you want more direct contact with me and information on how I could come in and speak and help, you can get me on my website, samanthahorwitz.com, and contact me through there. I'm on Facebook. I'm on, I got YouTube, I got the Twitter, it's
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I have one final question for you, and it's it might seem like a weird one, so you could take a second if you need to think about it, but if I knew you better, what would I ask you?
Wow, that is a great question. You would just ask me, hey, how are you doing? And when I told you I'm fine, you would say, really, how you doing? With the touch. With the touch.
Human touch, yeah.
Very important. Spouses, partners, touch.
So how are you doing?
I am doing great. Now, the work that me and my partners are doing, I finally feel like that question of it's not your time, it finally got answered. Like I said, everybody's path is different. It took a while. But the work that I'm doing specifically now, the book, A Labor of Love, but also my therapy.
Yep.
And I'm there to use my story so that nobody else is sitting in their car, sitting in their basement, wherever they are, with that gun to their head or thinking about taking some pills. You know, it is tough. I completely understand, have been there, and it's a journey that stays with you. I don't consider myself a disordered human being, so I've dropped the D now. So we're going from post-traumatic stress and actually adding an I for injury.
Okay.
Because what we're looking at is the way that the brain is affected, and because the brain is such an amazing thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The treatments that are out there, and there are many different kinds. Explore, have fun with it, be curious, because there's not one size fits all. That it's an injury that we can come back from.
Absolutely.
And that's the cool thing. That's what everybody, I want everybody to be excited. Like, I don't have this for the rest of my life. Well, yeah, it's kind of always in the background. But you're not ruled by it.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, that's not this, I have a mental disorder. Now, we're chucking that to the side. You've been injured, just like a broken arm.
Yeah.
And we're going to get you better.
You can heal.
Yep.
I love that. Changing the way PTSD, PTS is seen. I love that.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Well, is there anything else you really want people to take away from today?
Just what I started with, that it is okay not to be okay. Just please don't stay there.
All right. Well, Sam, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, we're going to make sure that all of the information to get your book is in our caption and all of our information. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Like I said, the information to get her book, more about her websites, that'll all be in the captions. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Strackhouse. We'll see you next time. If you'd like to nominate an inspiring woman, email me at sarahstrackhouse@gmail.com. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.